With Lush Planet Design Build, and today we're going to continue our conversation about building a retaining wall at the Deadman. I got a few comments on the YouTube channel about creating a little bit more detail in how the Deadmans are actually installed and designed. So if you look at the picture in front of you, you can see that there's two through bolts, top and bottom. You can see that that's a horizontal 4x4 and a vertical 4x4, and then two diagonal 2x4s. The through bolts are 1/2-inch hex heads. Just a note on bolts: I don't like using carriage bolts, because carriage bolts, eventually, if you ever have to replace a bolt, you can't get them out, because the carriage bolt has a round head and then a little square part underneath that you pound into the wood, which then forms to the shape of the wood. But over time, that little part of wood usually rots out, and then when you go to remove the bolt and replace it, it's impossible. So use hex heads with washers, and make sure to always use galvanized wood or galvanized hardware. So the wood is pressure treated. We got it locally here from Mendocino Forest Products Company, I believe, which has a good forestry management program, the highest bar that we can find in our area. I would prefer to not use pressure treated wood, which has a copper chemical compound in it, but it's literally the only thing that's available in wood that's good for ground contact around here. The one exception is that you could use redwood and char the redwood. Redwood will last fairly long, but it won't last as long as a pressure treated wood. The other thing I'd like to bring your attention to is the base where the 4x4 horizontal meets the 4x4 vertical. That is just screwed on. Basically, it doesn't carry any load there. All the load is transferred across the diagonal. This next shot just gives you a different angle of the same. The one thing to notice here is how we always treat our ends. So the ends of a pressure treated wood are not protected from the elements. I like to put a copper treatment on there, as well as a paint or a tar when something's going to be underground. You need that extra support so that the microbes the fungi and the bacteria don't eat into the wood. So in this shot, you see the 2x12 that is on top of the base 4x4. And that's what's going to keep the retaining wall from moving. So when all the soil is on top of that, then if the post tries to move, it has to lift up that piece of wood. The critical thing is just to make sure that you stick the wood on top of the 4x4. Angle of the Deadman. A good thing to notice in this picture is how we placed the first run of the retaining wall down into the ground, and then built our concrete mound up to it. That way we can get that water to shed off of the post, and then we just are going to slide in the rest of the posts right in between the post and the Deadman. At the very top of the Deadman, you can see that there's a bolt. It's probably a 12-inch by 1/2-inch galvanized bolt that's holding the top of the Deadman in the top of the 4x4 part. And if you look at the bottom, there's another bolt going right through the bottom. And those two bolts, and then the bolts that go across the diagonal, those are the core of the system that's going to hold the retaining wall in place and keep it from leaning. Pay attention to the bolts on the posts. So you can see the 2x12s that run horizontally, and the bolts go through the posts, through the 2x12s, and then into the 4x4 in the back. And these two bolts, in combination with the two bolts on the horizontals, that is the heart of the system. And that, combined with the plank that the 4x4 on the bottom is sitting on top of the 4x4 on the bottom, that holds that whole retaining wall up. So it literally has to jack up that whole earth in order for it to lean. And hopefully, if we did it right, it's going to last, 30, 40, 50 years. I hope you enjoyed this video and got good information out of it. Please feel free to add comments or requests in the comment section. Sign up for our to be subscribed on our YouTube channel if you find this stuff useful, and have a great day.